Hello, my name is Barbara. I am a behavior tech, and today we're going to learn how to read a basic line graph. So while I'm explaining about the graph line, I will be drawing for you guys and showing you what I'm doing, okay? So the first thing that we need to do is at the graphic line, there is a vertical and horizontal line. So the vertical line we also call axis Y, and the horizontal line we call axis X, like this. Okay, so the X line indicated times, so it can be number of session, days, weeks, periods. Everything is gonna be indicated in this line here. And right here on the Y line, we're gonna add the number of behaviors. We also have the data points that will be plotted at the intersections of the time and number of behaviors. And then I'm gonna add them right here. For example, so this is the data points. Then we have the data path that connect to the data points. So I'm gonna write this down for you too. Like that. So this is the data path connecting the data points. And then we have the phase line that's gonna be kind of like this. I'm gonna show you. And then the phase line is gonna divide the baseline and the intervention, or one intervention and another intervention baseline. So the phase line is basically divide and mark the end of one point in the intervention process and the beginning of another after baseline before the intervention. The line graph is really interesting because it will help us to identify information about every moment that a behavior changes. Also, the variation of a data from one data collection period to another. Another point about the line graph is that we can see the intervention result. We can compare the intervention with the baseline. We can see if the behavior is increasing, is decreasing. We can actually see the effectiveness of the intervention, if the intervention is actually changing the behavior. And then through the graphic, we can answer some questions such as if the behavior is if we want the behavior decrease and the behavior is not decreasing, we can ask some questions such as are the reinforcers effective for the learner? Are the SD, the cues, the prompts also being delivered effectively? Is the learner not ready to meet the goal at this time? Should we modify the goal? What are the factors that are interfering with this process, with the intervention, with the progress? So the RPT plays a very important role, because even that you do not interpret the graph, you need to understand why the graph is so important and how we build this graph. We build this graph through your data session. So everything that you write down, everything that you take notes on, that you take data, that's important to build this graph and help the supervisor to understand how is the progress, the client's progress, and when or what can we do as a supervisor to change and help the client to progress. Just one more thing that I want to talk to you about, it's about the trends. The trend is very important because show us the direction that the data path. So let's pretend that this graph is showing a skill acquisition program, and we want the client increase the knowledge, increase his ability, his skill acquisition in, for example, follow instructions, right? So how would we read this graph? We can say that in a baseline, the client was very low, following directions, and then after, we can see the second phase here, the intervention, the client increased his response. So we can say that the client, he increased the response. So the intervention have a function relation. This is a function relation graph, and we can see that the intervention is actually being effective for the client. I hope you guys could understand a little bit about the line graph. Thank you so much for watching.